The Hoosier State is an Amtrak passenger train that provides service on a 196-mile route from Chicago to Indianapolis. It runs on the 4 days each week that the Cardinal does not run. This gives the Chicago-to-Indianapolis market daily rail service. Iowa Pacific Holdings furnishes rolling stock and on-board service personnel. Operation of the train is subsidized by Indiana. During fiscal year 2011, the Hoosier State carried approximately 37,000 passengers, a 10.9% increase over FY 2010. During FY 2011, the train had a total revenue of $836,057, an increase of 5% over FY 2010. History. Prior to Amtrak, the Chicago-Indianapolis market was served by several daily trains, the Pennsylvania Railroad Southwind and Kentuckian, and the New York Central's James Whitcomb Riley, Indianapolis Special, and Sycamore. With the creation of Amtrak, riders between the Hoosier State's capital and the windy city were served by the Southwind and the George Washington, James Whitcomb Riley. However, with Penn Central's financial instability, track maintenance was rare, and Amtrak shifted both trains to other routes through Indiana, leaving Indianapolis to be served only by the National Limited, which ran between New York and Kansas City. The National Limited's discontinuance in 1979 severed Indianapolis from the National Rail Network, and isolated Amtrak's Beech Grove shops in the Indianapolis suburb of Beech Grove. The passenger carrier had been using the National Limited to ferry railroad cars to and from its shops. It was forced to run special trains to Indianapolis instead. The Hoosier State entered service on October 1, 1980. On April 27, 1986, the Cardinal was rerouted to use the same tracks as the Hoosier State between Chicago and Indianapolis, and began running on days the Cardinal did not operate. The Hoosier State was restored to daily operation on a separate schedule from the Cardinal on October 25, 1987, but funding cuts led to its discontinuance on September 8, 1995, while the Cardinal continued tri-weekly operation between Chicago, Indianapolis and the East Coast. Amtrak restored the Hoosier State on July 19, 1998, as a later quad-weekly train. From December 17, 1999, to July 4, 2003, the Hoosier State was extended south from Indianapolis to Louisville, Kentucky, and renamed the Kentucky Cardinal. After the discontinuance of the Kentucky Cardinal, the Hoosier State returned to operating 4 days a week in tandem with the Cardinal. On October 16, 2008, the Passenger Rail Investment and Improvement Act was signed into law, which required the operating and capital costs of providing intercity rail passenger service on Amtrak routes of not more than 750 miles be borne by the affected state of states within 5 years. At a length of 196 miles, the Hoosier State is one of the routes affected by this provision of PRIIA. The state of Indiana became responsible for funding the Hoosier State beginning on October 1, 2013. Faced with termination of a service that would have left Chicago to Indianapolis with tri-weekly train service, state and local officials arrived at a deal to share the $3 million annual cost of the service, becoming the last state in the nation to arrive at a deal to save its short-distance train line. On October 15, 2013, Indiana sought alternatives to Amtrak operation and on June 24, 2014 selected Corridor Capital, a Chicago-based rail passenger services development company, as its preferred vendor to manage and operate the service. Planning was underway for the company to take over the service as early as October 1, 2014. However, Corridor Capital did not meet that deadline, and Indiana.It continued negotiations with the company in November 2014. Amtrak continued to operate the train service under short-term contract extensions while the state considers alternative vendors. On March 6, 2015, the Indiana Department of Transportation announced that the Hoosier State would discontinue service on April 1, 2015. The decision was made due to regulations of the Federal Railroad Administration that would require the state of Indiana to act as a rail carrier. Despite the state owning no tracks or trains, that requirement would, according to Indiana.It, increase the cost to Indiana taxpayers for no additional benefit. After Indiana appealed to the FRA, the train's operation was extended to April 30. Amtrak continued to operate the Hoosier State under a short-term agreement while negotiations continued. On August 2, 2015, the Hoosier State began running with Iowa Pacific equipment and on-board service personnel. The train is operated by Amtrak personnel and Amtrak provides ticketing. Both companies are under contract to the Indiana.It. Route details. The Hoosier State operates over Amtrak, CSX Transportation, Union Pacific Railroad, Metra, and Norfolk Southern Trackage. CSX Indianapolis Subdivision, Indianapolis Terminal Subdivision, Crawfordsville Branch Subdivision, Monon Subdivision, and Eldson Subdivision. Indianapolis to Thornton. Up Villa Grove Subdivision, Thornton to 80th Street. BRC 80th Street interlocking, Metro Southwest Service 80th Street to 21st Street, NS Chicago Line, CP 518 to 21st Street. Train consist. The Hoosier State generally operates with Iowa Pac Feature and Ex-Atchison, Topeka and Santa Fe Railway Big Dome Summit View and 2 passenger cars, with power provided by a fleet of 3X and JTGP-40FH2 diesel locomotives. Prior to Iowa Pacific providing rolling stock, the Hoosier State operated with 2 coaches, generally Horizon equipment, but occasionally supplemented by Amfleet cars. Power was a General Electric Genesis P42 DC locomotive. There were no food service cars, and the train offered only coach-class service. Station stops.